The lawyer slowly closed the thick file and looked across the table. His voice was calm, but the words he spoke hit harder than any judge's gavel. You need a family by Friday. The woman sitting opposite him didn't blink. She simply stared back with eyes full of anger, eyes that had spent years learning never to trust anyone. Then something unexpected happened. The lawyer looked at her a little longer, and recognition slowly spread across his face. No. He whispered. It can't be you. The woman lowered her eyes, hiding the tears that suddenly threatened to fall. She knew exactly who he was. The man she had hated for 15 years. The only man she had ever blamed for destroying her life. Before this emotional journey begins, take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Every story we share is inspired by the strength of ordinary people facing extraordinary moments, and your support helps us continue bringing these heartfelt stories to life. Now, let's begin. Rain hammered against the windows of the downtown law office as Margaret Collins sat motionless in the leather chair. Her coat was soaked, her hands trembled from exhaustion, and the folder resting in her lap contained every document she owned. Birth certificate, medical records, employment history, eviction notice, termination letter, and one final envelope she hadn't opened in years. Across from her sat Daniel Carter, one of the city's most respected estate attorneys. His gray suit was immaculate, his office perfectly organized, and every diploma hanging behind him reflected a lifetime of success. Margaret thought he looked exactly the same. Older, more tired around the eyes, but still carrying that same quiet confidence she had once mistaken for arrogance. Daniel cleared his throat. I know this isn't easy. Margaret laughed bitterly. You have no idea what's easy anymore. He slid another file toward her. Your great-aunt Eleanor left you everything. I already know. The estate is worth nearly $12 million. She shrugged. It doesn't matter. It does. She looked at him. No amount of money changes the past. Daniel nodded. No, it doesn't. Silence settled between them. Outside, thunder rolled across the city. Finally Daniel opened the will. There is one condition. Margaret leaned back. Of course there is. Eleanor believed wealth should strengthen families, not isolate people. Margaret said nothing. Daniel continued. According to her will, the inheritance can only be transferred to someone who has an immediate family. She frowned. I don't understand. You must have either a spouse, a child, or legally adopted dependents before Friday. She stared. Friday. The deadline Eleanor personally selected. That's 4 days away. I know. Margaret laughed again. Except this time it sounded more like heartbreak. I've spent 15 years alone. Daniel lowered his eyes. I read your file. No. She shook her head. You read paperwork. You didn't read my life. She stood, ready to leave. So that's it. No family. No money. Case closed. Daniel surprised her. There may still be a way. She turned slowly. What way? If we can prove that someone genuinely depends on you. Margaret interrupted. No one does. Daniel hesitated, then asked quietly, why? She froze. It was such a simple question. One nobody had asked in years. Instead they asked where she worked. Why she never married. Why she rented tiny apartments. Why she kept changing jobs. Nobody ever asked why she had chosen to live completely alone. Margaret smiled without happiness. Because families disappear. Daniel looked down. So you decided never to build another one. She didn't answer. Instead she picked up her worn handbag. As she reached the door Daniel spoke again. I remember the day your father came into my office. Margaret stopped breathing. Slowly she turned. You remember him. I've never forgotten. Her expression hardened instantly. You mean the day you convinced him to sell our home? Daniel remained silent. The day everything fell apart. Still silent. The day my mother left. His voice was barely audible. I remember. Margaret walked back toward his desk. Each step filled with years of anger. You destroyed my family. The words echoed through the office. Daniel didn't defend himself. He simply listened. My father trusted you. He believed you. He signed those papers because you promised everything would be okay. She slammed her hand on the desk. We lost our house. My parents divorced. My brother ran away. My father drank himself to death. Her voice cracked. And you became one of the richest lawyers in the state. Daniel closed his eyes. I know. No. She pointed at him. You don't know. You went home every night. I was 16. I watched my whole life disappear. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Finally Daniel opened the bottom drawer of his desk. He removed an old photograph. Its edges were worn. The colors faded. He placed it gently in front of her. Margaret looked down. It was a picture of her family, taken at a neighborhood picnic. She was smiling. Her younger brother held a baseball glove. Her father stood proudly beside them. Her mother laughed at something outside the frame. Margaret stared in disbelief. Why do you have this? Daniel swallowed hard. Because your father gave it to me. When? The day before. He couldn't finish. Margaret's hands trembled. He asked me to keep it. Why? He said if anything ever happened. Daniel's voice broke. He hoped someone would remember them as they once were. Margaret felt something inside her begin to crack. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Just confusion. She had imagined this man as heartless for so many years. Heartless men didn't keep family photographs for 15 years. Heartless men didn't sound guilty every time they spoke someone's name. She whispered, "What really happened?" Daniel stared out the rain-covered window. "The truth," he paused, "is very different from what you were told." Margaret's heartbeat quickened. "What truth?" Daniel looked directly into her eyes. "The papers your father signed weren't supposed to save a business. They were supposed to save you." Margaret felt the room spin. "What are you talking about?" Daniel slowly opened another file. One that had remained sealed for over a decade. Inside were documents Margaret had never seen before. Medical reports, police statements, insurance investigations, bank records, and one handwritten letter from her father. Daniel pushed the file across the desk. "I've waited 15 years for someone to ask me that question." Margaret reached for the letter with shaking fingers. She unfolded it carefully. The first line stole the air from her lungs. "If my daughter is reading this, everything she believed about her family, everything she believed about Daniel, everything she believed about herself, was about to change."